When you think of the most popular cars ever made, you're probably thinking of vehicles like the Ford Model T, the Volkswagen Beetle. Here in the US, maybe the Ford F-150. But around the world, there's only one car that has sold more than any other. That, of course, is the Toyota Corolla. And behind me is a brand new 2019 Toyota Corolla hatchback. Today on the Fastlane Car, we're going to try and find out why Toyota has sold well over 40 million Toyota Corollas throughout history.
Toyota has given US buyers two choices of transmissions for the 2019 Corolla hatchback. One is a CVT, a continuously variable transmission. That's actually kind of interesting because it has something called a launch gear. So from 0 up to 25 miles an hour, it'll stay in a physical gear before it actually switches over to the CVT belts. But this one is the 6-speed manual transmission. Thank God Toyota gave us a manual transmission. It's actually really fun. The throws are a little long, but it's notchy, it's precise, it's a good transmission. There's one interesting thing about it though, and it's this little button right here that says IMT. It stands for Intelligent Manual Transmission. And it does two things. For one, Toyota says at least, helps to mitigate stalls. It'll keep you from stalling the engine if you're maybe a novice manual driver. But the other thing it will do is rev match your downshifts for you when you have IMT engaged.
So let's see if this car is an easy manual to drive. Now Toyota says that it is harder to stall with IMT on, so my IMT button is pushed. I'm on a little bit of a hill. I'm gonna engage first gear, not even gonna look at the throttle, just gonna back off the clutch and see if we can actually get moving. So, not on the throttle, just using the clutch on a hill. Oh, it's managing my revs, look at that. Okay, so if I really slowly let off the clutch, it moves, no problem. Now what if I do it a little bit quicker? First gear, only using the clutch again. Okay, come on. I'm on a hill and I can't stall it. Let's see if I really start to pop it. Okay, ready? Okay, so you can stall it if you really try.
I think it's fair to say that the 2019 Corolla hatchback might have the most aggressive styling of any Corolla to date. So let's take a minute to talk about all the different styling features here on the exterior to find out maybe why it's such a popular vehicle.
The Corolla hatch starts at just a hair under 20 grand. The one behind us is the sporty XSE model in blue flame, and it comes in at just over $25,000. But you get some really cool features. Let's start off with the front end design. First off, the design of the entire car is very aggressive. It's very sporty. The front end design is especially aggressive. There's no protruding bumper. It's well incorporated into the front fascia, into this really big, aggressive, in-your-face grille. Now you can see a band across the grille where perhaps the bumper lives, where the little slots are filled in. You'll also notice full LED headlights, and full LED headlights are available across the line on the Toyota Corolla hatchback. In fact, it's standard even for under 20 grand. You also see that the Toyota logo is flush mounted against the grille. It looks cool, but it also serves a purpose. Behind that badge is where some of Toyota's Safety Sense 2.0 system lives. Safety Sense 2.0 is standard on all Corolla hatches and includes really cool technologies such as collision mitigation, lane departure mitigation and warning, and adaptive cruise control, all for under $20,000. That's pretty cool.
The XSE is the sporty trim with sporty looks, but unfortunately it does not get any sportier of an engine. Under the hood here is a 2-liter naturally aspirated 4-cylinder that makes 168 horsepower and 151 pound-feet of torque. Now, while it doesn't make a ton of power, this 2-liter naturally aspirated 4-cylinder does get really excellent gas mileage, at least according to the EPA. It should get 28 mpg in the city, 37 mpg on the highway for a combined rating of 31 mpg. And that fuel economy is, I suspect, one of the reasons the Corolla has been so popular for such a long time. Of course, regardless of what transmission you get, power from that engine is sent to the front wheels only.
The first thing you notice stepping into the interior are these incredible seats. And they're not just incredible for an affordable, small Toyota. They're incredible, period. They're very comfortable, yet they're very supportive. They're a little bit lazy boy-like, but they're also surprisingly sporty. The design is awesome. They're these aggressive bucket seats. The materials are cool. The Monroney claims that this is a leather seating surface, and this insert here is this really durable looking cloth. I love the mixed color palette in here really breaks up the interior, so it's not all just black.
There's a lot of interesting details, even if you just take a look here at the windshield. Now, the first thing to point out is these windshield wipers because, well, they've been designed to help the Corolla be even more slippery in the wind. The covers on these windshield wipers have a slight rake to them in the front that you can tell is there to make them more aerodynamic. Another aerodynamic piece is the placement of the windshield wiper spray nozzles. You can see they're right under the hood here, tucked away so they're not getting into the wind. Now, another interesting thing about these wiper blades is that the one on the passenger side is actually 14 inches, where the one on the driver's side is 28 inches, twice as long, which I just think is kind of funny. The last thing about this windshield, well, of course, there's a camera up top to help you with all those Toyota Safety Sense 2.0 features, adaptive cruise control, lane departure warning, all that good stuff that Tommy mentioned before.
This Corolla is exceptionally well thought out, and I think this is part of what makes the Toyota Corolla such a brilliant vehicle and has always made it such a brilliant vehicle throughout the years. Toyota really sweats the details. Let me give you an example. Up here in the front of the console, there's a little cubby, and you're probably thinking, that's great for my phone. Your phone will live in there, you'll never think about it ever again. Take it in and out, you know, it's just a cubby. But it's not just a cubby, it's actually way more clever than that. You see, first off, it fits all sizes of phones. This is an iPhone 8 Plus, fits in no problem. But you'll notice they cut out the middle of the cubby. And that's so that you can easily slide your hand in here and grab it. You don't have to work to fish it out and mess with it. It's a simple grab and go cubby. I just love that. There's so many small attention to detail items that you'll never think about, that Toyota will probably never advertise, but exist and make your life just a little bit easier. There are a couple of cool things coming along the side of the Corolla as well. First off, Toyota has worked to make this car as slippery and aerodynamic as possible. And part of that means these nifty little aero bits, these little vortex generators throughout the side. There's one here, and there's 4 little tiny ones on the back of the mirror cover. You'll also notice that on the side of the mirror is a turn signal, which is a nice touch on such an affordable small car. Now, these wheels, they look really good. They are pretty large. They're 18-inch in diameter, and you'll see that they've got these little protrusions here that on the passenger side point forward and on the driver's side point backward. And that's because it's the same wheel on all 4 corners, which is completely fine unless you're a little bit OCD like me, in which case you probably won't stop thinking about it. On the side here on the window, you'll also notice that you've got the portion that goes down and then this small little visibility window in the front here as well. But it is worth noting, it doesn't extend forward into the A-pillar, it stops on the door hinge.
The 2019 Corolla hatch comes with a fair amount of creature comforts, and one in particular that's super nice for Tommy and I here in Colorado in the middle of November right now because it's super cold outside. That's of course these heated seats. You have a high and low setting for both the front driver and front passenger. The other interesting tech and creature comfort feature is this screen right here. It's an 8-inch touchscreen display, and it comes with Apple CarPlay and Amazon Alexa connectivity. So you can hook up your Amazon Alexa account to this and engage with your car from your Amazon Alexa device in your home. Of course, you all know how Apple CarPlay works. I'm an Android user, which is a big bummer because this 2019 Corolla hatch does not come with Android Auto. The other tech feature I want to point out here on the interior is actually the dashboard, because there's a 7-inch multi-informational display here in the dash. It shows you a whole bunch of trip information, all these cool screens that you can check out and play with.
The window switches on this Corolla hatch are something that should be mandatory in every vehicle with power windows. And that's one touch up and down on all 4 windows. The driver's side, the passenger side, both rear windows are one touch up and down. A really premium feature that deserves to be in every car. Thank you, Toyota, for doing this. Now, this is pretty goofy. There is a lockout switch, so if you want to lock out the ability for the back passengers to control their windows, you can if you have kids back there. But funny enough, if you engage that lockout, it also prevents the front passenger from rolling their window up and down. So say you're a little bit mad at your front passenger and you don't want them to experience the great outdoors and the smell of squirrels and berries and trees. You can lock them out from opening or closing that window.
Styling at the rear end of the Corolla hatchback is another interesting story because there's a huge mix of different materials and different things going on to talk about on the trunk. Now, the first thing I want you to notice is this body panel is made of metal very clearly, but knock on that and you realize that the hatch is made of resin. It's a composite resin that's designed to be, well, for one reason, really easy to sculpt. That's how Toyota managed to get this crazy shape on the hatch itself, but it's also lightweight and it's also really strong. The other thing you want to notice up top is the spoiler, because it's huge. Look at that thing. It's got these 2 little holes in it. It's really aggressive and sporty looking, and I think it's kind of cool. One thing that's not so cool about the back end though, you have to take a look down here, because there's not 1, but 2 different fake exhaust tips. They're kind of these chrome rectangle shapes that, well, we don't love fake exhaust tips here, but the funnier thing is that where there's 2 fake tips, there's only 1 real tip. It's right up under here.
I love that this Corolla hatch has a manual transmission, but it has something that I typically hate: electronic parking brakes. Now this is especially troublesome on a manual transmission vehicle, because typically you're always flicking that switch on and off, and it's just easier to use a lever. But check this out. Let me start up the car. It's gonna beep and beep and beep. And let me put on my seatbelt here. And here's what you'll notice. Now, to engage the electronic parking brake, I pull up on the switch. To disengage, I put my foot on the brake and push down on the switch. That's very standard. But if I engage the parking brake right now, obviously it's in neutral, parking brake's on, it's not gonna roll forward. Now, if I go ahead and put the car into first gear, parking brake's still on, I slowly release the clutch like I'm about to take off, the parking brake automatically disengages. I love that feature. That's so nice and thought out, and it just works really well. Now the other cool thing is, if I turn the car off, take off my seatbelt, the parking brake turns on again because it knows I'm about to leave. Once again, it takes a feature I usually dislike, electronic parking brake, and makes it into something that's usable and actually pretty helpful. The back seat of the Corolla is also surprisingly interesting and very useful. First off, you have the same amazing seat material with the same really cool white stitching across. You also have cubbies on both sides of the seats and this pretty, well, useless plastic tray here. But there are some weird things. If I go ahead and fold the armrest down, I have 2 cup holders, pretty standard. But there's also a cup holder in each of the rear doors. That's pretty cool. You also notice I've got these little grab handles above my head here, and it's not just the rear seats that have them, all 4 seats have them. Once again, a small thing that can really make a long drive a lot more comfortable. And perhaps the #1 reason why the Toyota Corolla does so well around the world is just the build quality, because it's awesome. It really is well made. All the panels line up beautifully. It's all extremely well constructed, and you really get a sense that this car is going to last a long time. Now let's take a look at this weird TIE Fighter shaped trunk. To get in, there's a little electronic button down here at the base of the trunk. There's a long one and a short one. The long one unlatches it, and the short one locks it. Roughly 18 cubic feet worth of storage capacity back here. You also have this funky little parcel shelf here. And Toyota's adamant you only carry a maximum of 2 kilograms on top of it, which is a pretty small amount of weight, I guess. I'm from America. I don't know how much 2 kilograms is, but underneath the rear floor here, you'll find your spare tire, which I wish Toyota actually incorporated additional storage into the spare tire, because it seems kind of like a waste of space. You also have your tools and your jack and whatnot, and you've got a little cargo net in a little cubby. Now you can secure this cubby along the back of the vehicle if you want, and the cargo net is very expansive. I think we're ready to go fishing. Well over 40 million Corollas sold worldwide throughout its history, and you can completely see why with this new Corolla. It's well thought out. Toyota really sweated the details. It feels like it's really well made. It's fun to drive. It's good to look at. This new 2019 Toyota Corolla really is a very complete package. Whether you're a car guy or a car gal, or just looking for something to take you to the grocery store, I mean, come on, in blue flame? Yeah, I think it's a really good little car. As always, I'm Tommy, and behind the camera, Michael with the Fastlane car. Be sure to stay tuned for more news, views, and real-world reviews on the 2019 Corolla.